I moved to Louisiana in 1976 from upstate New York. When I came down, I had a 1965 Ford station wagon, and I was trying to sell it. And Teddy's mama told me she had a son who was a painter, and he might be interested. And he came to see the car one afternoon, and he never left. He's been with me ever since.
Well, back in those days, you know, I had my nice figure then and all my hair. Me and my first wife had broke up. Then I met a lady, and she said, "You go meet a real light-skinned person, and because the one you got now is the devil." And I said, "Well, okay." And so I met Nancy, and after I met Nancy, looked at the car. I went back by her to tell her I didn't want the car, but she had already put the tires and things in my name, so I went on and bought it from her. And I must have rode around in that old car for about 2 years. And so I was opening up this nightclub, so she volunteered to come up and help me out. And so she never left.
We snuck around. You had to back then. You had to. We tried to go out, but we had to go, I mean, we were in the country, but we had to go way out in the country to places where we knew nobody at home would see us until his mama found out about it. His mama was my security guard at the infirmary. And somebody had seen us out and told her. And that was hard. That was very hard. And we should have probably been the ones to tell her, but I couldn't. I couldn't tell her. I don't know who told her, but she always came to work an hour before I did. So she had to be there at 2 in the afternoon. I had to be there at 3. I drove up in my old 1965 station wagon and parked, and I came out of the car onto the sidewalk, and the front door of the infirmary flies open, and here comes Miss Johnson. "I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing." And I said, "Oh God, I'm in trouble now. I'm in trouble now." But what could I say? I couldn't say anything except, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Is it true? Are you seeing my baby?" Now he's the oldest. "Are you seeing my baby?" "Yes, ma'am." I couldn't say anything but yes.
Yeah.
And of course, I could see the fear in her eyes.
Then my mother also knew from things that happened in the past that when I opened up the place, she told me, she said, when she did find out, she said, "You can't be liking that white woman." I said, "What you mean?" She said, "They'll come here and they'll burn my house down and burn the business down. They'll fire me off for a job, you know." And
she was scared to death for everybody.
Yeah, she's scared to death for everybody. You know. For me to open up the nightclub, I had to get approval of 2 white people that nobody else mean nothing. So they gave me my first license for 1 year. About twice a month, every Friday, the police would come in at about 12 o'clock, just because they could, you know, scare people, so everybody would leave.
But they didn't just come in. They would come in through the front door, they'd come in through the back door with guns drawn and make everybody stand up. The women had to empty their pocketbooks on the table. They would search the men for ammunition, guns. The women, they would go through their pocketbooks. But this was twice a month, every month, for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, 2 or 3 years.
They'd bring dogs. They would mace our animals, our dogs that were at the back door. They would mace our dogs. Trying to find something, whether it was guns, knives, drugs, anything. They'd even go through our ice maker looking for stuff.
Yeah, look all in the beer box.
Yeah, yeah.
They was trying to force me to shut the business down. Mm-hmm. The intimidation just made me fight it harder.
I didn't know race trouble from being upstate New York. I went to school with blacks all my life. I had blacks on my neighborhood, so I didn't know any different until I was in my 20s and moved to the South. And I was shocked. I didn't know things like this still existed. I had no idea. I mean, I knew about it through school and TV and newspapers, but to actually live it, I couldn't imagine being like this. I couldn't buy gas in Baker. I would drive to the gas station in Baker, and they would close it. They used to have a Sunflower grocery store in Baker, and I would try and buy groceries in Baker. And I'd get to the counter, and they would close the counter and walk away. So I still had to go all the way to Baton Rouge to buy groceries. Of course, I thought it was crazy. But you have to be in the South to understand this. You know, you have to be here.
And see, another thing that happened, the whole while from the first time we started dating, I would always tell her, and I had this little saying, you know, it wasn't a saying. If I didn't want her to say something, or she was about saying too much or something, I would say, "All right, white girl," you know.
And I would know to quiet down.
Yeah. And see, what it was is that for first 3 or 4 years, I had to constantly remind her that she was white and I was black. And here in the South, all depends on where you're at, you got to act accordingly. You know, we had a hard life, but it's been a good life. You know, I love her, and I know she loved me, and see, a lot of people can't say that.
And we've had a lot of good years. Most people don't have that. And you have to try. You can't just give up. It takes a lot of hard work, and it always takes two. It always takes two, no matter what you do. You may have children and everything else, but there's still just the two of you.